Good afternoon, and welcome to our first ever Inside Out, a monthly webcast where Thinka's co-founders and respective COO and CEO, Ben and Lee, talk through all the weird and wonderful heart and human parts of business and leadership. Today, we're focusing on three big questions. How do we help emerging early stage leaders recognize their performance gaps? How do we help them increase their self-awareness? And how do we build a robust emerging leaders program that gives us tangible data?
I think it's really interesting when we look at our capability analysis data, and that's about 10,000 samples we have now, and we're seeing that on average, early stage leaders will rate themselves 11% higher in their leadership skills than their superiors will rate them. So it's a really interesting gap that we're seeing there in the data, that there does seem to be this kind of optimism bias, this tendency to sort of have rose-colored glasses on a lot of those leadership skills.
Feedback is crucial here. And when I talk about feedback, I talk about the role of the leader of the emerging leaders role in their development and being able to help them close the performance perception gap because they don't know what they don't know. So they may believe they're really good in a particular area, but we can see that there is an obvious deficit that we need to grow. So it's a blind spot. They don't know, we can see it. So we need to have really honest conversations. I first learned the art of perception gaps or the closing of them from a leader that has stuck in my mind since the day it happened. So I started my career at Woolies, for those of you that don't know that. Started pushing trolleys. It was an amazing part of my career because it taught me a lot about discipline, about work ethic, about communication, but more than anything else, it taught me the art of specific and direct feedback. So I'll give you a visual. Incredible leader, always incredibly well dressed. This particular leader, he also wore his pants way too high. So you can always see his ankles, and that's the visual is always in my mind. But one day I was doing something and he gave me this 2-sentence piece of feedback that was so direct and specific that it has never left my mind. And the interesting thing with this particular leader is he wasn't shy on feedback. He didn't feel the need to faff, to fluff, to put layers around the feedback, to protect feelings, to protect emotions. It was just honest. It was direct. And that is what really taught me. Sometimes saying very little can actually close the gap the most. You're doing this and I need you to do that. Stop.
You might have to strategically pull in different people to kind of offer that feedback in a different way, in a different setting, or through a different medium to get it to land. When I was a teacher way back when, one of the things we used to say as teachers all the time was, when you're sick of saying it, they're finally hearing it. So yes, direct and candid feedback is good, but don't think one feedback conversation is going to solve the problem. When we were emerging leaders, and one of the biggest things I had to do was adjust my expectations. I'm not going to talk too much about being a perfectionist, but I will say that
You just gave it away.
Yeah, I know. That probably just in many ways compromised my leadership as a first-time leader because I was expecting perfection. And the best bit of advice I got from someone was only ever expect 80% and you coach the rest. So
it's hard to hear, but I hear you.
Yeah.
When I hear leadership brand, people have a bit of a reaction to that sometimes because it feels calculated. But I think how you've linked it to values is critically important. But when you know that about another leader, so I know that about you, Lee, I know that diplomatic is your style. I know that truth and kindness is a guide for you. I can also challenge you in a very compassionate way because potentially how I'm going about something with the lens of strategic growth and independence might feel quite calculated. And I need someone to be able to say, hey, maybe look at it from this perspective or that perspective. That's the person that might be the truth teller, but because they have explored and understand much about you, helping grow self-awareness like that is really easy.
Mindset shift is a big part of the early parts of the leadership program for emerging leaders, I think, because they're going from, and a lot of them say this in the data, they're going from friend to manager a lot of the time, peer and colleague and equal to someone who now has to set up tasks, they have to give feedback, they have to coach, they have to hold people accountable. It's a much different mindset than the old mindset of, strong collaboration, dipping in, covering for your colleagues. Like there's
We're all
kind
in
of,
it together. Like
yeah,
I've moved
yeah,
from that to, oh, this person actually is got a different interest now from the team.
You're not born with leadership skills. You don't get your leadership license when you step into a first-time management position. You know, you have to learn these skills and you have to learn them in very strategic ways. So building one habit at a time is a really strong recommendation I would make for supporting emerging leaders. So throwing too many skills at them, behaviors or habits all at once is going to have a counterproductive effect. You really do need to be strategic around the skills that they need for early leadership, coaching, feedback, delegation, holding people accountable. All of those things are super important, but also bringing that growth mindset to their leadership as well, knowing that they can grow it if they don't necessarily have it in spades to start with.